What does a gamified teacher do when something just bombs? I almost fell into the trap of feeling bad for myself and getting grumpy and moody. Okay, I was grumpy and moody. But I got over it when I realized that this is all beta testing and that we are constantly trying to build a better product and we're trying to always make it better from the student-centered point of view. So join me as I reflect on how I did that for a couple of my classes this week. Well, as you might be able to tell, it is Spirit Week here at Early College, and today was Twin Day. I have a family member who is going through some medical issues. We call him Superman because of all the surgeries he's had to go through, and I had a whole slew of people that decided to be my twin today for Twin Day, and we all wore Superman shirts. It's a great example of showing community and how that can really help people through some tough times. This week, I'm reflecting on something else, though, and that is knowing when to cut bait, cut your losses, and readjust on the fly. I think that oftentimes we tell students that it's okay to fail, that it's a first attempt at learning, and I think that teachers, we need to give ourselves that same courtesy and understand that we're not always going to be successful the first time we try something, or not every class is going to be the same, and not every dynamic of the student population is going to react the same way. I really aspire to this idea of thinking in terms of player types and trying to build lessons and activities to hit as many of those player types as possible. And if we're considering that, some groups are going to have more of one type than another, and not every class is going to play through the same way or react to the game the same way. And I'm kind of going through a moment right now with that in a couple of my classes. I've got a couple of comments, not on the actual class, but we were playing a review game yesterday. And a lot of my game is built around some of the review game elements and the battle mechanics. I would say I have 6 classes right now. We meet every other day. I have 3 classes per day and one planning. And I would say out of those 6 total classes, 4 of the classes are totally in, and they really love the battle mechanics and the clashes. They like being able to fight against each other, and they like the ability to have some safe trash talk, and the game kind of works out where it's kind of a toss-up as to who's going to win each time. I have 2 other classes that I'm not sure if it's the dynamic of the students or if it is the time that they're meeting or the size of the class. But in my first block class, I have an issue where the game seems to be too complicated. The students are not reacting in a way that they're strategically planning. And I guess this happens sometimes. So I'm going to need to sit and reflect and consider how to pare some of that down so that I can engage those students in the way that they need to be engaged. And in my third block class, I have the situation where it's my biggest class. I have a lot of students that are not reacting positively to the game, so I'm not sure what that is. Here's my thoughts on both of those, though. That third block class, it seems to be that there are some, and I'm trying to decide if it's, if we're thinking of player types, if it's the killer types or if it is more of a disruptor type. Now, obviously we wouldn't call it a killer type in school, but if we're thinking in terms of player types, this is the Bartles system. The killers are people that want to assert their dominance over the other players. Now, in this case, they're trying to assert their position over me. I have a group of 24. It's my biggest class, and I'd probably say there's probably 3 or 4 that are trying to show that they're trying to be in charge. That might be a disruptor type, a griefer type, where they're trying to break the game, but I don't think they're trying to break the game. I think they're trying to find their place in the class. So I think what we're going to do in that one, and here's my possible solution for that third block class. And I think one of the issues, in addition to having a few of those sort of griefer killer types, is that the game is too slow. I use the Plickers cards. I enjoy using Plickers. I think that for some of the classes, it works really well when I'm getting a lot of students showing me the cards, and I can scan the room quickly, and it only takes about 30 seconds to a minute to get through a question being asked, the answers collected, and then I can take a few minutes to sort of go over the parts that are being misunderstood. But in this particular class, some of the students are responding very quickly, and then other students are taking longer, and I have to prompt them on every question. And I think it's in that window of time where those disruptor killer types are having some of their issues with trying to assert themselves into the situation. So I have a couple of thoughts on that. The first is that I think I'm going to eliminate the clash conflict. So instead of having two groups in class fighting against each other, I think what's going to happen, I think I'm going to switch them up early. My plan has been to have boss fights where eventually what's going to happen is the groups are going to come together and they're going to be able to attack a big boss, a big bad. And that was going to be our sort of main review for the final exam. And I think what I'm going to do with that class is transition it so that all of the groups are working together so that they are able to attack the boss. Now, I have a couple of options here, and I'm going to see how it plays out. I might make those students that are trying to assert themselves the actual boss, because I think that that's what they want. I think they want to be able to try to assert themselves over both the other players and myself. So I think if I make them the boss, that's going to give them sort of that special feeling that they're able to interact on others and be seen doing so. The other thing is it might, if I make myself the boss, it might give them the opportunity to attack me and kind of take it off the other students and bring them into the class and allow them to be the disruptors, but in a way that's being productive. It also allows them to be the griefers or killers if that's what the case is too, because it's allowing them to try to assert themselves over the boss. So there's a couple of ideas there. I think I'm also going to eliminate the Plickers system for that class because it's taken too long to scan the room. Plickers is also having some funkiness. It might be my phone, but with Plickers, each student has a QR code, and you can use your cell phone to scan the room, and it records the QR codes. And depending on which way you hold the QR code, it registers either an A, a B, a C, or a D as an answer. And there's other ways you can look into that. But I think what I'm going to do is move back to what I had done previously, and that is have 5 groups, or maybe 6 groups, depending on the size. So if I have the 5 groups, and then they have to give me one answer for the group within 30 seconds or so, that will mean that there's less wait time between the different groups. I can really pick them out faster, and I'm not spending time scanning the room. I can actually keep a timer and kind of keep track of the time that way. And if I'm able to do that, then it's increasing the collaboration element because they're working together and talking, and it's kind of speeding up the process of the game. I moved away from that because I was trying to get every student to answer the question, because I figured that if every student was answering the question, they were all going to be responsible, and I would be able to see which students were having trouble with which questions. And that has been true in some of the other classes, but this particular one, I have a different dynamic and I need to switch that up. I'm also thinking about doing some alternatives to the boss fight. There are some classes that might work better doing something like a digital breakout where they're working independently or in small 1 or 2 groups, where a digital breakout is really neat. You have all of the things planned out on the screen on a website, and using Google Forms, they would have a set of locks, digital locks, that require a password or a particular number or a particular date, and they would have to work to get through those digital locks. And if I structure the review right, it will hit all the topics that I need to hit, as well as allow them to kind of not be so structured, right? Because if we're doing a review where the question's on the board, everybody answers it, I'm in the front, that's putting me at the center of the review. And something like a digital breakout, or even like a Quizlet Live, moves it off of the teacher being in front and center into the students sort of more interacting with each other. Plus, there's a bit of a novelty to that. Something like a Gim kit, which they haven't seen. Most of my students are Kahooted out. They just don't want to do Kahoot anymore. We can even find some other games. I talked about sink or swim at one point on a couple of Twitter chats. Sink or swim's a really good game. You get two lines facing each other. Like here, I would have one line on this side and one line on this side of the table, and you have an even number or a roughly even number, and you ask a question, and the person that's front in the line would answer it, and if they get it right, they can either sink somebody on the other team, or they can raise up somebody on their team that's been sunk. If they get it wrong, nothing happens. You just move on to the next student. So you go from student 1 on this line to student 1 on this line, and then student 2, 2, 3, and 3. If the student has been sunk, they can't answer any questions. So there's some strategy involved on the other side. Also, if anybody tries to help their teammate, they get sunk. So there's a little bit of strategy there. It also puts a little bit of pressure on. The only downside to sink or swim is that sometimes the students that know they don't have to answer for a while stop paying attention. I think for that first block class, I think what I need to do is simplify. I think they'd be really into the game if I didn't have so many elements to it. I really like the idea of strategy, and I think a lot of the students like the idea of collecting items and being able to have special attacks. But the vast majority of that first block class just seems to be uninterested in sort of the complexities of the game. They want to study, they want to do the review, but they don't want to have to think about all the different pieces that could go into doing well in the game. I guess that's fair. Again, if we're thinking in terms of user types, that might be the player type. Maybe it's the type that's interested in mastery. I'm not really sure, but I think if I simplify it and I can see what's happening next time, I might be able to adjust from there. That might also be a case where I bring in the boss fight. Again, it's going to simplify. It gets them talking to each other. Part of the problem is it's first block in the morning, and it's first block Monday morning, and they were tired. Maybe part of it is I was tired and cranky. I had spent all weekend camping with my sons, so I didn't sleep very well Saturday night because I forgot to bring an air mattress, and the ground was hard, and I was up every hour or so. So maybe part of it was my personality wasn't coming out, and I didn't really wake up until later in the day. But I do think that as gamified educators, the idea of beta testing, of constantly being in that beta test where you're creating and you're putting it out into the world to see how people respond, and then you're going back and readjusting and reflecting and improving the product is really the heart and the core of what we do. And I think that sometimes I forget about that. And I think that sometimes I think that I've got all of these interlocking pieces that are going to work so well together, and that the students are going to love them. And I forget sometimes that I need to monitor the students and reflect on where they are and what they want. That's part of having that student-centered classroom. And I would say for the most part, the way I run my class with the open world concept and letting the students make lots of different choices really works. The part that I'm struggling with now is that review game, so that making it more student-centered so that we can move towards a completely open world system, even though we have all these different requirements based on standards and common assessments and tests and all that. So it's been a week, and it's only Wednesday, and no, it's only Tuesday. See, that's how much of a week it's been. So I hope that you've enjoyed my talk about the ways that I've failed and the ways that I'm looking to improve. I am in a constant state of reflection. A little story about my family member who is wearing the Superman shirt for. We found out that the medical issues are unnecessary to worry about, and we are very happy about that. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and hit that like button. I always enjoy seeing that people have watched the videos, and I hope that my ramblings haven't gone on too long. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you next week.